8 years, 96 months, 417 weeks, 3,016 days. Hi, I'm Andrew. Welcome to Dialogue Tree. This is episode 7, Lateral Thinking, a eulogy for the Nintendo Switch. Part 1, Prehistory, or Attract Mode. The most important system in the history of video games is the Pocket Calculator. You can argue that accolade belongs to the Magnavox Odyssey, the PlayStation 2, the PDP-1, or the mainframes of the 1950s, and you'd have a point. There are many significant systems throughout the history of gaming, each one of those marking a point of progress, a step forward in technology, or perception, or reception. But it's the Pocket Calculator that is the catalyst for an irreversible shift, the chemical that explodes the beaker, the spark in one young man's imagination that changes the course of an industry, defining its future and how it progresses. The first Pocket Calculator was developed in 1947 and looks like a pepper grinder crossed with Darth Vader. It's called the Curter and is operated by a tiny hand-powered crank. The first portable electronic variant, the kind that we recognise as a pocket calculator, is released in Japan in 1970. But it's not until the latter part of that decade that this little beacon of retrofuturism fulfills its destiny. But first, we must take a trip to Kyoto, 1965. A 24-year-old electronics graduate named Gunpei is hired by a company called Nintendo to maintain the assembly line machines that manufactured the Hanafuda cards that the business was based on. The next year, the president of that company, Hiroshi Yamauchi, visits that factory. He noticed a toy that Gunpei had made to amuse himself during his long hours on the production line, an extending arm he named the Ultra Hand. Yamauchi hired Yokoi on the spot to make toys. Ultra Hand, 10 billion barrel puzzle, the Ultra Machine, the Crytory, the Love Tester. The gamble paid off. And so, to a Shinkansen, Kyoto, likely the late 1970s. Picture some bento boxes, a view of weathered, boxy towns, and other than the oddly distant sound of the rush of the train, perfect silence. Yokoi is travelling home on the train. He notices a businessman fiddling idly with an LCD calculator to pass the time. In this moment, Yokoi makes two mental notes. 1, people want portable gaming devices, and 2, they don't need to be high-tech, high-spec, premium objects. They can be made of weathered, boxy technology, cost-effectively. The seed is sown, and in 1980, it blooms. The Game & Watch, a series of portable gaming devices based on the hardware of the LCD calculator, is released. It's a hit. Nintendo expand to America. A young man named Shigeru Miyamoto designs something called Donkey Kong for the arcades. The success of the Game & Watch, and Donkey Kong, turns Nintendo from a playing card company that makes toys into a video games company that makes video games. The NES follows in 1984, and with Super Mario Bros., brings gaming to the family home by way of the toy store. The Game Boy comes in 1989, and with Tetris, puts gaming into the hands of those same adults on the Shinkansen. Between them, these two platforms rescue an industry from crash, bringing that same industry to the peak of the mainstream, redefining and influencing the course of an entire marketplace, and capture the imaginations of successive generations of players and future game makers. Both platforms built on the cheap, with non-current, outdated components. You know the line. Lateral thinking with withered technology. That's what young Gunpei called it. Part 2. Identity, or feeling younger than we are today. This show is not the history of Nintendo, but to make sense of this unprecedented present, we do need to look to the past. The philosophy that Gunpei Yokoi defines becomes the DNA of the company he works for. Now, it's not the only factor in their success. Aggressive capitalism plays its part, in stringent third-party agreements, control of the cartridge economy, supply throttling, merchandising, and a few good games here and there. But lateral thinking still underpins every success and failure, every rise and fall, over the following 40 years. It allows the company to produce their hardware on a budget, with those leftover resources and subsequent profits directed into creating novel, engaging software. Those profits afford investment in future innovations, future success. And when Nintendo succeed, the industry follows. The D-pad, handheld gaming, the shift to 3D, motion controls, all manner of novel means of interacting physically with virtual spaces. The innovations that lateral thinking generates brings gaming out of the wings and onto the main stage. It proves that gaming is a viable big business, a revelation that gives birth to multiple rivals and competitors, that leads us from the genesis moment of the 80s to the polygons and marketing shift of the 90s, through the various booms, busts, fragmentations and growing pains of the aughts and teens, to this world, where a single indie developer can sell millions, and where studios are bought and sold for billions. Nintendo can fail, and have done so frequently, sometimes deservedly. They indulge their whims. They look to create things that people don't know they, and sometimes just don't, want. Underneath it all, for better and for worse, they are still the toy company from Kyoto. That's what Nintendo is, and always has been. To buy in and expect something different, to demand photorealism, current generation specs, battle passes, whatever is in vogue, whatever is successful elsewhere, is to do it wrong. It's marketing as much as it is reality, but Nintendo, as much as we can expect from a billion-dollar company, as beholden to the market as any other, does not follow trends. If you want those things, that's fine. Other platforms can give them to you. Nintendo know that there's little benefit in playing in the same field, constantly defined by your relationship to your competition. One former president of Nintendo, who we'll come to later, said this: "We just don't care too much about what other companies are doing, or are trying to do. Our primary focus is to think about and actually carry out something which other companies' hardware can never realize. We are trying to provide consumers gaming experiences that can only be available on Nintendo platforms." End quote. So Nintendo build their own field. The lows will be hell, but the highs will be heavenly. And that identity means that while Nintendo can fail, they've played a key role in building an industry that can support them through their failures, forgive them, without demanding apology or expecting constant atonement. Nothing proves that more. Nothing will ever prove that more than the console they release on March 3rd, 2017. The Switch. Part 3. The Bottom of the Well, or Blue Sky Thinking. The biggest success story in modern gaming starts with the biggest failure, and a small, hastily arranged press briefing in a plain-looking conference room in Tokyo in March 2015. It was then that Nintendo announced they would be partnering with DENA to produce games for the mobile market. On paper, a logical business move. Philosophically, a defeat. Their biggest ideological crisis since 1889. This company makes games exclusive to their hardware. The audience buys the hardware to play the software. That's how it's always been. Then President of Nintendo, Satoru Iwata, eternally youthful, eternally idealistic Satoru Iwata, was asked in 2008 whether Nintendo would consider moving into the mobile market. "This is absolutely not under consideration," he replied. "If we did this, Nintendo would cease to be Nintendo." Seeing Iwata, a creative, acclaimed, beloved figure in gaming, announce this move in this airless briefing, knowing he would pass away just 4 months later, is tough to see and to think about. It's tempting to read into this moment, to speculate that Iwata, even as he effectively apologises for the announcement as he makes it, is thinking, "Just you wait." I like to think that he was. The NX is unceremoniously announced at the end of this briefing, an assurance that the foray into mobile and the current state of their hardware business is not terminal, that Nintendo will not cease to be Nintendo. The optics of this, 10 years removed, and after 8 years of exponential growth, are striking. It's hard to believe this is the same company. The NX is announced with this lack of fanfare as a result of the spectacularly unspectacular failure of the Wii U. The reasons for this have been discussed to death. An unappealing, unclear gimmick, poorly communicated, all capped with the constant suspicion that Nintendo weren't really serious about making games for gamers. The Wii U sells 13.5 million units worldwide in its lifetime. 13.5 million after the Wii's 100 million. The biggest failure in the company's gaming history. In this moment, it seems logical to assume they were feeling burned and sheepish, cognizant of the fact that a grandstanding announcement of the successor would be both an admission of failure and embarrassingly hubristic. The accolade of biggest failure is often given to the Virtual Boy, but that's off the mark, as that was only ever intended as a supplementary system, with its development budget and scope constantly scaled back. The Wii U was the Nintendo home console, the cornerstone of the living room, the family hub, the social space, the new NES, the new Wii. It bombs, only with a whimper. They've lost the mainstream and a decent percentage of their core audience. They've blown the lead in a way no major games company has since Atari. They're punching up from the bottom of a well with both hands tied behind their back. Whatever comes next needs to pull the company out of a deathly financial tailspin. The prognosis is grim. The future unclear, but the outcomes certain. Anything other than a success, a comeback, on a scale unheard of in gaming history, and the Nintendo you've grown up with are done. Acquisition, corporate death, game over. From the bottom of that well, whoever decides these things at these companies knows what must be done. The same thing they've always done. Be unique, on the cheap. This time, just do it right. Part 4. The History of Now, or Checkpoint. It's tempting to skip the rest. 2017, 2020, 2023. The successes of the Switch are well known, but rather than just telling you that Breath of the Wild was good and that Mario Kart sold a lot, I want to look at other reasons why and how the Switch flourished, to try and understand where it leaves us, what the industry can learn from it, and where it leaves Nintendo. There's a few reasons the Switch succeeds, but I think they can all be traced back to one key point, one key principle behind the console. Something simple in theory, but an industry white whale in practice. It makes gaming as accessible as possible. It reduces the friction between not playing and playing. It goes out of its way to get out of the way, and to put gaming into the hands of as many people as possible. It then offers everything to every subset within that audience. There's also the lower price point and the family-friendly marketing, but the thing that gets it out there, that gets it bolting out of the gate, is that snap. The simple headline gimmick of the Switch, play on the TV, play in your hands, is an afterthought now, but I don't think the impact of it should be understated. That's what gets it out there, gets Nintendo back into the family home. Whoever you are, whatever your game, you can play it anytime, anywhere. It's on the TV, and now it's in your hands. The simplest magic trick ever played, barely a second thought now, but suddenly a new standard, an aspiration for the hardware makers, and now an expectation of the customers. So it's out there, that simple gimmick hitting with a big audience, and as that audience expands, the games follow. Every player is served, and that's the key. The big games, the biggest games, the biggest versions of Nintendo's biggest franchises. They double down on those experiences, maximalist iterations of the simplest formulas, the kart racer, the fighter, the team shooter, the cozy game. The Switch also becomes a destination for the best games of the last generation, making a virtue of the hardware's limitations. Gamers, lapsed or otherwise, can finally catch up. The path for indie games is streamlined too. The smallest games now have minimal friction between production and player. The pipeline of recommendation to eShop to purchase now measured in seconds. Our backlogs are testament to that. You can watch a 5-minute review on YouTube and then go play that life-changing 50-hour Metroidvania immediately for a few bucks. The Switch brings indie mechanics, sensibilities and aesthetics to the mainstream. Of course, the mass-market Blue Ocean brand of playful, physical, human experiences is also here, to provide the mainstream backbone that supports everything else. Motion controls will always have broad appeal. The sales of Switch ports and ARMS are testament to that. Labo, another multi-million seller mocked by those who don't see the tactile joy and silliness in building and decorating a cardboard piano, is evidence that, while the company has dialed back on the goofiness of things like Miiverse, that DNA is still there. Away from the big publishers, there's a game that asks you to put a Joy-Con inside a cardboard tube, balance it on a flat surface, and roll it back and forwards to navigate two-dimensional puzzles. And then there's that game that uses the IR camera as a trombone. Tactical games, pixel art JRPGs, precision platformers, farming sims, boomer shooters, every genre finds a big audience on Switch. Everyone is here, so every game is here. And we know all this. But what do we know now? What have we learned? What can the industry learn? Again, I think that's pretty simple. The Switch has proved that, even as certain sectors of the industry clamour for a platform-agnostic, stream and subscription-based future, unique, platform-specific experiences are still important, and audiences are receptive to that. Multiple audiences can be served. There's a way for first-party titles to adopt live service adjacent models that don't piss people off. And all of this on a console built on a mobile chipset that was 2 years old when it went to market. What do we learn? That lateral thinking still has something to teach us. Where does the Switch leave Nintendo? And what does that mean for the future? Well, they've made more money in the last 8 years than in the 50 that preceded that. The thing they've always prioritised, the strength, identity and purity of their IP, is now stronger than it's ever been. Their revenue, their success as a company, has been decoupled from their gaming business. Now, it's grim, grey business talk, but the money they're now making from the films, the theme parks, the stores, the merchandise, will allow them to carry on developing and publishing games in their preferred way, the way that's been a success throughout this generation. Comparatively small budgets, comparatively short development times, a stream of regular releases that frequently sell in the millions. Some sections of the audience, people like you and me, often bemoan the perceived drawbacks of the Nintendo model. The reduced power, the smaller scale first-party releases, the price. But look at it from their perspective. 150 million sales later, the system works. So expect 3D platformers and action games that hit 90 plus on Metacritic. Expect some games that emphasize physical interaction with the software through an innovative accessory that comes bundled with it. Expect niche audiences, the murder mystery fan, the turn-based strategy fan, to be served unexpectedly. Simply put, expect more of what made the Switch successful. Diversity, inclusivity, accessibility, play. Part 5. Extra Life, or My Time with the Switch. Consoles are journeys. Your life with a console is a journey. Normally this happens once, maybe twice in a lifetime. Your first time, your childhood console. The one you unwrapped at Christmas. The one you play with your parents, or in spite of them. Those are the formative memories. The rose tint, the warm glow, the experience that connects all gamers at some level. Maybe you have another experience like this, likely as a teen. Local multiplayer, late nights, early mornings, borrowed games, if you're lucky. This is probably archaic now, a relic of the days before high-speed internet, before shared online worlds. Whatever the case, those childhood experiences inform your adult future. We will each console release to recapture that spirit of discovery, of innocence, of excitement. And they might. But more likely, it's diminishing returns. Chasing a dragon that can't be caught. Sometimes, we get lucky. For me, and many others, the Nintendo Switch has been a second first time. I stepped onto the Great Plateau and, yes, I felt like a kid again. But for me, that's only one part of the Switch puzzle. That feeling is unmatched, but it's uncommon, rarely replicated, and should not be pursued. To do so is a risk, locking you into pursuing a feeling that you can't get back, locked into a permanent nostalgia cycle. No growth. It's that big pop reunion, the rock revival, the live action remake. Before the Switch, without knowing it, that was me. I thought of myself as a gamer of taste and refinement, as a proud card-carrying member of an exclusive worldwide club of outsiders. But I wasn't. I had the shallowest knowledge and understanding of genre, mechanics, and the shallowest understanding of just games. Only now do I see how I interacted with games once past childhood. That was a time of experimentation through the twin dealers of Friends and Blockbuster, where I played everything I could get my hands on, forging happy memories with the usual suspects all the way to the fringes of the third-party bargain bin oddities. Adulthood killed my curiosity without me even realising it. I saw only the highest profile games. As a result, I have only scattered, significant gaming memories between leaving school and March 3rd, 2017. Some online shooters you've heard of, some 3D platformers you've heard too much of. There's a lot of people out there for whom that is their interaction with gaming, and that is fine. But I had a bit of a superiority complex about it. An unjustified one. Nothing can justify that. To put it bluntly, the Nintendo Switch is my Carl Sagan mind-blown gift moment. The eShop, the ignition. The idea of accessing experiences tailored to my interests instantly at budget prices is astonishing in the way it can only be to someone who is only vaguely aware of the indie boom kickstarted by Thomas Was Alone and Fez. I learn, like a monkey learning to use his thumbs, that there is not just another world of games, but another universe. Now, you don't need the specifics. I'm likely going to cover a lot of these games on this show. But the big picture is this. I play games I never would have played. I experience genres I never would have experienced. I beat games I never thought I could beat. I make friends, engage in communities, and have positive interactions, the possibility of which I thought had long passed me by. The multitude of experiences the Switch affords me makes me more curious, more patient, more playful. The Switch takes me back to play at the perfect time. I've got kids now. Directly and indirectly, the Switch helped. From enabling brief, immediate moments of escape during parenting downtime, to the spirit of fun it retaught me, to sharing games with my children as they've grown up. It's been there, for us individually and for us together. The impact is more total, more sustained than any other console in my lifetime. 8 years of coverage, from journalists, creators, friends, acquaintances, and all points in between, have let me know one thing. I'm not alone in this. The Switch has been something to so many people. Their first experience, their latest experience, their rediscovery. For me, it's the start of a long, slow walk that leads us, eventually, to here. Part 6. What's NX? No. Part 6. Leave luck to heaven. The Switch 2 cannot be as successful as the Switch 1. It's not as new, nor as fresh, nor as exciting. It can't sell in those unfathomable figures. And all of that is fine. The Switch is one of those one-offs. The Atari 2600, the NES, the PlayStation 2, against which the rest of the industry is judged. The console will be unfairly judged against its predecessor. This time, Nintendo aren't trying to innovate themselves out of terminal decline. They're working out how to retain the colossal, expansive, company-sustaining audience they've built.
Normally, they do something totally unexpected. This time, it's a little bit of that, and a little bit something else. A system less powerful than its contemporaries, as always, that incorporates new ways to play, as always. But this time, no wild swing, no gimmick that immediately dates the console, rendering it unplayable 10 years down the line. Just iterative tweaks.
In the here and now, in the twilight between the end of one cycle and the start of another, this feels like the right decision. Hardware with just enough novelty to surprise, leaving the software to do the heavy lifting. They'll experiment with that software, selling games and experiences with funny accessories in the millions. Lateral thinking, you could say. Nintendo are, for once, leaving luck to heaven. I'm not pretending otherwise. I'm not as excited by the Switch 2 as I was the Switch 1. But that's expected. The specific set of circumstances that led to the impact that console had can't be replicated. I'll never have another great plateau. Life is different now. I'm not as excited. But God, I still am excited. All the bad faith doom-mongering in the world can't stop me being excited about detachable controllers that turn into mice, and the novel experiences they'll allow, from the biggest to the smallest games. All the bad faith doom-mongering in the world can't stop me being excited to play the biggest games from the last few years that I've missed. All the bad faith doom-mongering in the world can't stop me appreciating the positive tweaks around the edges. Easier game sharing, accessibility, free upgrades, online capabilities. The stuff Nintendo are supposed to be bad at. all of that can't stop me being excited at how this console looks like it will offer the best version of the best parts of its predecessor. A gateway to brilliant experiences, solo and shared. I can't wait to be put through Elden Ring's grinder, to learn about the technology in the hardware, in the software that should have been a pack-in, to play a fun-looking mouse mode-based indie called Mousework, and to race my kids in that kart racer. 4 cows. Laughing. Playing. What to play first? Now, the obvious sentimental answer is to bring things full circle, to rediscover Hyrule in its newly minted next generation form. And while there's an indulgent poetry to that, I don't want to look back right now. The Switch was about new experiences, of trying things I wouldn't normally try. So let's ride that wave. I don't play racing games, so step up, Fast Fusion. Whether it clicks with me or not, I can't wait. Years, 96 months, 417 weeks, 3,016 days.
Me Too, Brexit, the first ever image of a black hole, 3 kids, 1 pandemic, and still not one single Rihanna album. It's finally done.
History accelerated long ago. The connected world, information sharing, real-time analysis, the YouTube deep dive has progressed to the point that we no longer rely on or have the patience to wait on decades of hindsight to interrogate the historical significance of anything. Culture speeds past, the textbooks written as it does. Only, we don't have the time to read them. The Switch is something on a scale that will likely not be replicated for several decades. I hope that this time we know what we've got before it's gone. It's not the new NES. It's not the new Game Boy. It's not the new Wii. It's the Switch. Not bad for a pocket calculator. Thanks for listening. The artwork for the show was produced by Pixel Benny. There are links to a lot of useful or interesting resources in the show notes, and you can find the show online at dialoguetree.cc. Talk to you next time.